All right, let's get right into it. We talk a lot about diet for our bodies, right? For our hearts, our weight. But what about for our brains? Well, it turns out the connection between what we eat and how we think is one of the most exciting frontiers in science. So today, we're going to dig into exactly how your food can actually rewire your memory.
And look, this isn't just some cool topic, it's a really urgent one. Just look at this number, 152 million. That's how many people are projected to be living with dementia across the globe by 2050. I mean, that's a staggering figure, and it presents a huge challenge for all of us.
You know, when you hear a number like that, and with no real cures on the horizon, it can feel pretty overwhelming. But what if one of our most powerful weapons in this fight isn't in some high-tech lab, but in our own kitchens? What if the battle for our brain health really does begin on our plates?
So, that's the big question we're tackling here. Let's start by really getting a handle on the scale of this memory challenge, and then the incredible promise of prevention. Now, this right here, this is a huge source of hope. According to the 2024 Lancet Commission, a massive 45% of dementia cases might be preventable. How? By tackling risk factors we can actually change. And a huge chunk of those factors, we're talking things like high blood pressure, obesity, type 2 diabetes, are directly tied to our diet. This isn't some small slice of the pie. It's nearly half of it.
Okay, so if almost half of all cases are preventable, the next big question is, how do we do it? Let's look at the science behind our brain's best defense, these proven, evidence-backed ways of eating.
In big studies, two major players consistently rise to the top. First, you've got the MIND diet. It's basically a mashup of the Mediterranean and DASH diets, but it's specifically tweaked to protect the brain. Then, of course, there's the famous Mediterranean diet, which tons of research has shown has a real protective effect against cognitive decline. Both are incredibly powerful. And this is where it gets really incredible, the real-world impact. This quote is from a massive new study where researchers put older adults on an intensive lifestyle program, including big changes to their diet. And the result? They weren't just slowing down decline. They were getting cognitive scores similar to people 1 or 2 years younger. They were effectively turning back the clock on their brains. It's just powerful proof that these changes really, really matter.
So what's actually going on inside our brains? Well, first up, omega-3s. Think of them as the literal repair crew for your brain's wiring. Your brain is about 60% fat, so these fatty acids are the building blocks that keep your brain cells in good shape, making sure the communication lines stay open and clear.
Next up, B vitamins. These guys are the chemists. They are absolutely essential for turning certain compounds in your body into the neurotransmitters your brain needs to work properly. One of the big ones is acetylcholine, which is crucial for making new memories. Without enough B vitamins, that whole chemical process just gets sluggish.
And finally, we have the bodyguards, antioxidants and polyphenols. Every single day, your brain is under attack from something called oxidative stress. It's basically cellular wear and tear. These compounds, which you find in all those colorful fruits and vegetables, swoop in to neutralize that damage and cool off inflammation, protecting your brain cells from the daily grind.
Okay, so that's the science. Now for the fun part. Let's translate all of this out of the lab and into your kitchen with a brain-healthy shopping list.
First on the list, fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, and sardines. They are packed with those omega-3s we just talked about. And get this, studies have directly linked eating them to having lower levels of beta amyloid. That's that infamous protein that clumps up in the brains of people with Alzheimer's.
Next, you're going to want to pile your cart high with leafy greens. Spinach, kale, broccoli, you name it. They're loaded with that B vitamin folate, which helps boost memory by fighting inflammation and improving blood flow to the brain, making sure it gets all the good stuff it needs.
And please, don't forget berries and grapes. These are your main source for those antioxidant bodyguards. Things like the flavonoids in blueberries and the resveratrol in grapes act like a shield, protecting your brain cells from the day-to-day damage that leads to aging and decline.
A handful of walnuts a day is also a fantastic brain booster. They're full of a plant-based omega-3 called ALA. And here's what's so cool about this. Cleaner arteries and lower blood pressure aren't just good for your heart, they are absolutely essential for your brain. It's a total win-win. A healthy cardiovascular system equals a healthy brain. And let's talk about eggs for a second. They are a powerhouse of a nutrient called choline. Remember acetylcholine, that memory neurotransmitter? Well, your body literally needs choline to make it. So eating foods rich in choline directly supports the chemical factory that regulates both your memory and your mood.
Now, just as important as knowing what you should eat is knowing what you should probably avoid. So let's flip the coin here and look at the real memory wreckers. Your brain's favorite food is glucose, which it gets from carbohydrates. And this is a huge but, not all carbs are created equal. You can see the stark contrast here. Complex carbs give your brain a slow, steady stream of fuel. But refined grains and sugar, they cause these wild spikes and crashes, which leads to insulin resistance and oxidative stress, a total disaster for long-term brain health. And if you think this kind of damage takes years to happen, think again. This is absolutely shocking. Recent research shows a diet high in junk food can damage your memory circuits in as little as 4 days. It starts by messing up glucose delivery to the brain. Then your memory neurons start to get all overactive and inefficient, and by day 4, memory is measurably worse. It happens that fast. So as we start to wrap this up, let's just zoom out for a final thought, because it's about more than just what's on the plate. Look, it's a complex picture, for sure. Just being dehydrated can mess with your short-term memory. And yes, genetics do play a role. For example, carrying the APOE4 gene can change how your body handles fats. But, and this is really the key takeaway here, even with all these other factors in play, diet remains one of the single most powerful tools you have in your hands to protect your brain's future. Which really brings us to this final all-important question. You don't have to change your entire life overnight. That's not the point. But knowing everything we just talked about, what's one small, positive change you can make for your brain, starting today?